Hey everyone! Today I want to show you the Great Towers in Pennsylvania, and it's such a beautiful place, and if anyone will ever be in the area, I really highly recommend coming up here and taking a look around because it is really gorgeous. And me personally, I love coming here whenever I have the opportunity. So the Great Towers was the residence of Gifford Pinchot, who was the first head of the United States Forest Service when it was established in 1905. So the Forest Service is tasked with protecting and maintaining the nation's forests and grasslands. He was a very good friend and advisor to President Theodore Roosevelt, and then later on, he worked very closely with and advised also President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Hence, he was a very important figure in politics, working hard for conservation of forests and nature, something that was very important to him from a very young age. It was something that was instilled in him by his parents, who themselves were very concerned with preserving the nature and forests. He also became the governor of Pennsylvania, where he worked hard to do things like paving roads, for instance. In fact, thousands of miles of roads were paved as he strongly believed that dirt roads isolated people and communities, and especially the farmers, who had a harder time to get to the markets to sell their products. At times when, for instance, the roads got wet, it was raining. Those dirt roads would essentially turn into mud, causing incredible difficulties in travel. It's, by the way, something that the German military had to learn a hard way in their invasion of the Soviet Union in the 1940s. But if anyone would like to read a little bit more about him and the topic itself, his autobiography was first published in 1947, just shortly after his death, and it's called Breaking New Ground. So first, let's maybe go this way. No, let's backtrack. Let's first go this way. This is going to make a little bit more sense. So if you take this path to the right behind the visitor pavilion, you will arrive at the Laurel Hill Burial Grounds, which was the first, if I'm not mistaken, the first official cemetery in Milford, which is the town in which the Great Towers is located in. And here we have graves that date back to the early 1800s. And also here, many members of the Pinchot family are buried. So I showed you the cemetery, so let's go back a little bit. And right here on this slope was the amphitheater. It is a little bit hard to see today. Here, for instance, is a view from the top. So it is in this location that entertainment would be provided for guests, like music performances, for instance. And it is here that in 1963, President John F. Kennedy dedicated the Pinchot Institute for Conservation Studies, as you see the plaque here till this day. The Institute's mission is still to conserve forests and work on policies towards natural resources and nature. But when you think about it, President Kennedy visited this place in September 1963, and he was shot and killed in November, so just under 2 months later. Hence, this being one of the last tasks that he did as the President of the United States. 1963 is also when the family donated the estate to the United States Forest Service. But wait a minute, is that an apple tree? Wait, yes, it's an apple tree. I am certainly not going to eat one of them off camera, so don't worry. But now we finally arrive at the house itself, which is stunning. It has a beautiful combination of flowers all throughout the area. There are also many sculptures throughout the property as well. You know, honestly, all of these small little details really add up to create this beautiful charm about the estate. The Great Towers was built in 1886 by Gifford's father, James, and it is built to reflect French style, as the roots of the family themselves were French. But again, it's a really stunning building with amazing views, and walking through here on a nice day like this was, for instance, it's really like a fairy tale. You know, it has those vibes. I know it sounds weird, but it's really beautiful. I have to admit that a lot of effort, you can see this, that a lot of effort was put into maintaining this property. And honestly, it's one of the best maintained properties I saw ever since I began this channel. And yes, there is water in the fountain. And the blue color, which was chosen to paint the inside of the fountain, makes it look really nice. And it's not the only place with this blue color, as you will see. When Gifford moved in here with his wife Cornelia, because remember, his father James originally built it, but later on, his son Gifford, he moved in here with his family, and at that point, some of it was redesigned and few additional places were put in. For instance, this building being one of them. It's called the Leather Box, and it was built in the 1920s. When Gifford worked as the governor of Pennsylvania, this was the building dedicated to his staff, where he was planning meetings and campaigns, essentially like a work building, separated from the rest of the area and the family, which honestly is so smart. Look, I had to work from home during COVID, like probably many of you listening right now. I still work from home. But if you have family or kids or something like that, it's extremely difficult to get something done if you're working from home. So to have a dedicated place on your property or in your home where you could be alone and do some work, it's extremely practical and useful. Certainly not like many of us had to live through in COVID, where we had to hide behind the water heater in order to take Zoom calls. And this building was also added called the Bait Box, which was dedicated as a playhouse for their only child, Gifford Bryce. Once he grew up, the space was converted to a tea room for Cornelia. And right there in the distance, you see the cemetery, which I showed you in the beginning of the video. And as we are walking here, this used to be the swimming pool. It was later filled in, and today it's like a, I don't know, a multi-purpose area where different activities and programs are being held. But one thing I learned being on this property is that Cornelia wanted to use local millstones in the design of the area. And so in the early 1930s, hence the beginning of the Great Depression, and the moment where lots of people lost their jobs, she offered $5 for each one of these millstones to be brought up here by the local people. And believe me, driving up here with your car, or if you walk here, you could definitely see and feel that it's a pretty steep hill. And this looks incredibly heavy. So this had to be a pretty difficult task to do, but you can find few of them around the estate. In fact, you can play like a game with how many can you find. But now let me show you probably my favorite place of all of this. Here. Tell me that this is not a place where you would just want to hang out and relax during the day. And you know what? Not just during the day, but probably at night as well. Because when I looked very closely, I see that on all of these beams, they installed LED lights. So at night, just picture this has to look amazing with the lights reflecting in the water below. It has to look so cool. Oh, but look, another millstone. Here we have millstone number 3, and right there in the distance we have number 4. Honestly, this is such a fun game to play in trying to locate all of them. Or maybe it's just me, maybe I'm weird, which I will not deny. So I hope you enjoyed this very short video. You learned about a new location. Maybe some of you didn't even know that something like this exists. So now you know. It's always cool to learn new things. But as for me, at this point, I am positively, absolutely, 100% not going back to the apple tree for more apples. I wouldn't even think about it. So until next time, take care everybody. Stay safe out there. Bye.